When a man secretly misses you, the first thing you notice is the shift in his consistency, because consistency is the one thing a man can't fake for long. And when he feels your absence, his actions start revealing the truth he's too guarded to say out loud, and you feel it in the way he shows up more often, even subtly, because missing someone creates a pull that tugs at his attention throughout the day, and suddenly he's replying faster, reading your messages more intentionally, and paying attention to details he used to overlook, as if reconnecting with you grounds him, and consistency becomes his unconscious way of keeping you close even when pride keeps him from admitting how much he cares, and deep down he hopes you don't notice how much more present he's become, because that presence is the clearest sign that you're running through his mind more than he planned. You start noticing how his conversations feel different, not because he's saying something profound, but because his energy carries a new warmth that wasn't there before, and even the most casual messages feel more deliberate, as though he's trying to recreate the closeness he's been missing, and he begins asking questions that pull you into deeper dialogue, almost like he's trying to rebuild the emotional bridge between you with small but constant touches. And he doesn't disappear the way he once did, because the space without you feels uncomfortable now, and consistency becomes his safe way of staying connected while still pretending he's in control. And even if he's trying to protect his ego, his actions betray him, revealing the truth that missing you changes the rhythm of his behavior, making him show up in ways he didn't when he thought he could go without you. When a man's feelings deepen, his consistency becomes instinctive rather than strategic, because his mind keeps drifting back to you no matter how busy or distracted he is, and that inner pull shows up in the form of regular check-ins, thoughtful responses, and a genuine interest in how your world is unfolding, as if staying updated with your life makes him feel aligned with you again. And even on the days he tries to hold back, he still finds himself reaching out, not because he planned to, but because missing you creates emotional momentum, and that momentum compels him toward you even when he tells himself to keep his distance. And this is where you begin to see the truth. A man can hide his feelings, he can hide his words, but he cannot hide the pattern of his consistency. Because consistency is the love language of someone who misses you more than he'd ever admit. When a man secretly misses you, he starts looking for tiny ways to reconnect, because those micro moments feel safe to him, and instead of making big emotional declarations, he chooses the smallest excuses just to cross paths with your attention. And he'll send a meme he knows will make you smile, because it lets him enter your world without exposing his feelings. And he'll ask you a question he doesn't actually need the answer to, just to keep the conversation alive, and every little message becomes a soft knock on the door of your connection. And these gestures reveal that his mind drifts back to you even in the middle of his day, and he uses light-hearted interactions to test if you still welcome him. And each tiny moment he creates is his way of saying, "I'm still here," even if he can't bring himself to say it directly. And these micro connections become the emotional fingerprints of a man who misses you more than he wants to admit. The beauty of these small interactions is that they feel effortless on the surface, yet they carry a depth he's trying hard to disguise, and you can feel the intention behind them even when gesture seems playful or casual, and he might comment on your story within seconds because he's been watching closely, and he might reference something you said days ago because his mind has been holding on to it, and he'll share something meaningless but meaningful at the same time just to see your name appear on his screen. And these little bids for closeness show you he's trying to rebuild the rhythm between you without risking rejection, and the tiny details reveal what the big actions hide, and every micro moment becomes a breadcrumb leading back to the place where he feels connected to you, and even if he tells himself he's just being friendly, the frequency and emotion behind these gestures tell a much different truth. What makes these micro moments powerful is that they are never random when a man misses you, and each one is filled with a quiet desire to feel seen by you again. And he uses these small touches as emotional trial balloons to gauge how safe it is to get closer, and every tiny spark he creates is an attempt to reignite the flow of attention he's been craving, and he hopes you won't look deeply into it because he wants to stay guarded, yet he can't stop initiating these soft openings, and even if he's trying to act detached, these moments reveal that you're still occupying mental real estate in his life, and the smallest message becomes his way of saying he still wants connection without exposing his vulnerability. And he keeps showing up in these subtle ways because missing you turns ordinary interactions into emotional anchors, and these micro moments become the quiet but unmistakable signals of a man who feels your absence more intensely than he ever planned. When you pull back even slightly, a man who secretly misses you feels the shift instantly, and his energy begins to change in ways he can't control because your absence creates a contrast that wakes him up emotionally, and suddenly he becomes more responsive, more attentive, and more present without fully understanding why, and he starts reaching out faster because the silence feels louder than he expected, and the gap you create makes him realize how much he relied on your presence without acknowledging it. And even if he tried to act distant before, your distance now feels uncomfortable to him, and he begins to crave the connection he once took for granted. And this shift in energy shows up in the tone of his messages and the urgency of his actions, and his behavior reveals the truth that missing you intensifies the moment you stop showing up in the same way. The moment he senses you stepping back, he starts putting in more effort, not because he planned to, but because your absence triggers something primal in him, and he suddenly wants to know how you're doing, what you're thinking, and whether he still holds space in your world the way you did in his. And this emotional awakening often happens quietly inside him before it shows up in his actions, but once it does, the shift is unmistakable, and he reaches out sooner, stays longer, and listens deeper because now he's aware of the difference you make in his life, and your distance becomes the mirror that forces him to see what he's been ignoring. And this awareness makes him step toward you instead of away. And the effort he avoided before suddenly feels natural, and he finds himself chasing the connection he once assumed would always be available. As he feels the space between you grow, his mind starts replaying moments he didn't appreciate enough, and he finds himself thinking about your conversations, your presence, and the feeling of being understood by you in a way he doesn't experience elsewhere, and this emotional recognition pulls him back with a stronger energy than before, even if he doesn't verbalize it, and he starts matching your effort or even surpassing it because he doesn't want to lose the bond he now realizes mattered more than he admitted, and the warmth in his communication returns because he feels the emotional gap your distance created, and he shows up in ways that communicate "I still care" without him ever having to say it. And this shift in his behavior is one of the most reliable signs that missing you has created an emotional need he can no longer suppress, and the way he moves toward you reveals the depth of feelings he tried to hide. When a man secretly misses you, he doesn't just think about you in the present moment. He starts imagining you in the spaces of his future without even realizing he's doing it. And this shows up in the small ways he begins creating plans that extend beyond the moment you're in, like mentioning a restaurant he wants to take you to, or a movie you should watch together. And these little suggestions become clues that he's thinking long, term because missing you makes him crave continuity, and he begins replaying past moments in his mind and wanting to recreate them, and you notice him bringing up memories more often because they make him feel close to you again, and this forward, focused energy isn't accidental. It's the natural response of someone who wants you integrated into the chapters ahead, and even if he stays subtle, his words start building bridges toward future time with you, and these bridges are emotional indicators that you matter more than he's willing to openly admit. As his feelings intensify, he begins weaving you into conversations almost unconsciously, and he'll say things like, "Next time we hang out," or "We should definitely try that," because his mind is already placing you there, and these future-oriented hints reveal a desire for continued connection rather than something temporary, and he begins seeking ways to maintain momentum between you because missing you heightens his awareness of how much better his life feels with you in it, and he stops limiting the relationship to the present moment because the future feels like a place he wants you to exist in too, and this shift is subtle but deeply telling, and it reflects the emotional investment he may not have the confidence to voice directly, and every future-based comment becomes a window into the part of his heart he's been protecting, and through that window you can see the quiet hope he carries for something more. His future-forward energy becomes even more obvious when he starts circling back to things you've talked about before, showing that he remembers details that matter to you, and he uses these memories as anchors for new plans that involve you, like reminding you of a place you once said you liked or an activity you mentioned wanting to try, and this level of thoughtfulness reveals that he's been holding onto your words long after the conversation's ended, and missing you makes those memories feel even more significant, so he uses them as ways to reconnect and deepen the bond, and these reminders serve as emotional connectors that link past moments to future possibilities. And through this, you see a man who isn't just thinking about what you were, but what you could be together, and his desire to build forward becomes the clearest sign that his feelings are real, even if he hasn't found the courage to confess them, and the way he imagines you in his future tells you everything his silence doesn't.